I'm Thundercat, and I'm going to talk about some of my favorite bass lines. Once you choose the bass, then it's like the bass chooses you. The bass plays the role somewhere between melodic and harmonic and rhythmic. When you think of rhythm, you think of drums. You think about harmonic and melodic, you think of piano. But it's the in-between of that, and it creates a bit of its own rhythm, and it carries its own melody. If you know a bit about it, then it becomes a lot of harmony. I think this was towards the end of D'Angelo's self-titled album. Or was it, what was the name of that album? No, it was Brown Sugar, yeah. I would practice to this album, but there was like this one mistake that I would always make that I didn't realize. I spent a few years playing and touring with Raphael Sadiq, and that's Raphael Sadiq playing bass. I remember I was like, immediately where I walked into the rehearsal with him with a 5-string, he was like, absolutely not. You know, he's just like, you know, I had to play a 4-string. Every time we would play it, he'd be like, what the hell is going on with the song? And I was like, I don't know, I listened to it and practiced it. I remember one time he took the bass from me and he showed me that there was nothing being played other than 3 notes. Boom, boom, boom. It's the part where the bass line is moving the way it is, and it's kind of driving. It's actually driving to the song, even though it's so simple. It's the actual statement of the song, and the guitar comes as a response to it a bit. And I was just like, no way, because I was just like, how does it feel sitting like that? This was like the beginnings of me learning about feel and like, you know, the importance of how things sit in the song and stuff like that. It took me a long time to, you know, really wrap my mind around the part where this guy's only playing 3 notes, but this song grew so hard. And if your feel sucks, you just suck. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. It's like, for drummers, it's like an internal clock. It has to do with what your touch to your instrument, how you touch and feel. I think that's a hard line for a lot of musicians, because it's like, you just figure, you know, it shouldn't matter, but the truth is, you know, feel is one of the more important aspects of being a musician. If you don't feel right, you're getting fired. It's the truth. The thing that stood out to me about this bass line, you know, it's like the symmetry based on like, you know, the era it comes out in, the 80s and like, you know, synth pop and all that stuff. Everybody's trying to be robot-like. Funny thing is that I think it still freaks people out whenever a musician naturally arpeggiates something. And arpeggiation is basically like a step ladder scale. It gets broken down into notes based on like quarter notes, 8th notes, 16th notes, 32nd notes and stuff like that, but it becomes like a sequencing of those notes. I remember when I started listening to this record over and over and over again, and I realized what was going on between the synth lines. I like was blown away because David Frank, it's like there's a moment in the song where it turns into this call and response within the bass line between the singer and the bass line. Oh, you're in my system. Melodically, it's like it's got this weird, like, you know, jumping around like that between octaves. It almost made me crash my car a few times. It was like, oh my gosh, he's creating this weird conversation within the song. Marcus Miller, man, legend. Slapping the bass, it can be a treacherous area for a bass player, you know, where it's like, it can literally be considered mutiny or treachery. You start slapping bass. There's different styles that you can, from like everything from almost Spanish, like where you're playing with all of your fingers, you know, from that to like just traditional using 2 fingers. Marcus is one of the guys that defined what it is to slap bass like that. It's an iconic bass line. Everybody remembers when, you know, Snoop sampled this for G's and Hustlers. That bass line, I feel like it's a staple because it kind of transcended time by becoming something that Snoop sampled too. This is one of those moments where it was meant to be like the star of the story, I think. I remember Chris Dave told me when I was like, if you ever slap bass, he's like, I'm throwing my snare drum at you. He like forbade me from slapping bass. I think he still does too. He like, for like doing something, if we've ever been on the same thing, he'll like lean over and whisper in my ear. He's like, you better not slap the bass. I think that this bass line is one of those ones that's like tasteful manner, you know. Yeah, hobble gobble tripping makes you feel like you're supposed to be smoking a cigarette and flick it out the window. Kick the door open. It don't matter if they start playing it, wherever it comes out. I don't care if the cops are standing there. I'm dancing.
Hello, my love. I heard a kiss from you. Red magic satin.
A lot of my favorite records have, you know, Louis Johnson on them. You know, Michael Jackson stuff. The Brothers Johnson, the legendary group, of course. I feel like the bass line is definitely one of the reasons why it was a hit record. I feel like this song is just pimping incarnate. It's like if you ever wanted to know what pimping was, just play this song and just get you in trouble immediately. There's a way that Louis is playing this bass line where he's sliding into these notes in a certain way. And it's what's giving it this slinky feeling to it. That type of playing between the octaves of bass, that's like real 70s, like disco-ish, a way to keep the actual timing of the song is kind of going in this eighth notes kind of feel in the song, while the drums are going a slight, you know, like regular 4/4, it's giving it an eighth note feel. And again, percussive. It's a fine line between funky and just disaster. And you know, sometimes, you know, some cats like to take that risk. That's another one of those moments with slap bass where it's like, it's a percussive thing. You know, it's like, it's got a lot to it. It's a simple bass line, but it's been turned into like this motion that is become somewhere between the drums and, you know, the rhythm that it holds. And, you know, melodically, it has its own melody inside of what's going on. The tempo and everything, and like the overall feel is kind of centered around that bass. The role of slap bass music is really controversial. There are some moments where I remember when I was younger where I would have conversations about this, like slap bass. I felt like talking about slap bass was like talking about like girls. You know, you're a teenager trying to figure out how to talk to girls, and it's like, it's like, what the hell is wrong with us? Like, you're sitting here wondering where we're supposed to slap bass at in the song. It's like, I think you're supposed to do it when, like, you know, in this part of the song, because that place, nobody's paying attention there. And it's like, that's not why you do it. You know, like, you don't slap bass when nobody's paying attention. That's destructive. Like, why would you do that? I love that bass line, man. It's like, I don't even smoke cigarettes, but I just, these last two bass lines, it makes me feel like I'm supposed to be smoking a cigarette right now with like a bunch of frills hanging off the bottom of my jacket.